Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events.
Post 3 and Depot Street. Truck boy in request.
Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
Welcome to another episode of Biting Recaps here at Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. We both somehow managed to sleep last night and get up early for work today. But before we get going, I wanted to give a shout out to a couple people. First one is Darian. Meant to give him a shout out last week. Saw him when I was out trick-or-treating with my boys. He congratulated us on the podcast. He listens all the time, so I told him I'd give him a shout out. So forgot about it last week. So thanks for listening, Darian. He's a huge Lions fan. I also want to thank another listener, Michael Boyle. He wrote to us on Twitter and he said, "Love the podcast, boys. I am from Detroit. Have lived all over, but in Pittsburgh the last many years. I am and will forever be a lifelong Lions fan. I listen to Lions podcasts all week, 3 times a day when I walk my dog. Yours might be the favorite. Great analysis. Great job." So thanks for writing to us, Michael. He's also been messaging us quite a bit since this message, so it's been kind of cool getting to know him a little bit. So keep on listening. Appreciate you reaching out to us.
Yeah, we appreciate the feedback.
Yes, we do. It's nice to have some interaction too. So, Jacob, we have a lot to talk about in this game. Has your blood pressure went down since last night?
I don't think so. I haven't checked it.
Man, that was so much fun to watch the ending of that. So, how you feeling right now about the whole game in itself?
Well, obviously we won, so you feel great about it, the win.
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect kind of, smack you in the mouth kind of game, kind of wake you up based on how the last couple games have been going. This was just a game where we should have lost, right? A game where nothing was going right. We kind of were handing it to them in the first half, and then I sent you a text message. I said, we're going to see what we're made of here in the second half. If we're going to make a game out of it, or if we're just going to come out flat. And to be able to come out and pull it out was amazing. I saw somebody on Pat McAfee's show that posted it, but someone that's a Lions fan, and I thought you'd get a kick out of this too, or you'd be able to relate, obviously. But after years and years of losing games that we should have won, it feels very good to be the one winning a game we should have lost. We don't usually get to be on this side of it. Usually we're on the Texans side.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been there many a times where this other team just pulls it out last second, makes a critical false start in the last drive, badly misses a field goal or whatever, rips your heart out, and the other team scores. We had plenty of comebacks with Stafford, but it just felt like few and far between, and not enough for my liking to get a win like this. And it was nice, like you said, to really have no business winning a game in which you throw 5 interceptions. And, against a good team, it's not like it's the Titans and you got Will Levis and we threw 5 interceptions and then, we able to beat them. It wasn't like that. This is a good team. Yeah, that's right. Just kick them while they're down. My boys were jumping up and down. The morning was great getting up with them because they were in a great mood. If we had not won, it would have been a different morning, and I would have regretted letting them stay up for the night. But no, it was good. I was feeling really good.
You still have aftershock. It's like I still can't believe, I'm watching the different highlights and rewatching things and looking at stats and everything. It's like I can't believe we did it.
Yeah, well,
you can't believe we did it, but at the same time, you kind of can, because I don't know about you, but almost the entirety of that game, my panic level never reached higher than like a 2 out of 5.
Yeah,
it just felt like we're still going to be in this game late, and we're going to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I've told you many times about how Preston asked me, "Are we going to win?" And that was off the charts last night about him asking me. And I got to the fourth quarter, and he's asking me. And I'm still like, yes, we can do this. My confidence level wasn't as high, But at the same time, I know it's like 10 points. We can come back. I did not foresee Stroud throwing that interception in the third quarter in the end zone. That was a gift sent from heaven on that one, because that was a for sure touchdown that we got. So that, that just something that Stafford would have done, right? That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
Stafford would have thrown that pick. Maybe not in that manner. He probably would have gunned it a lot harder than what Stroud did, but it would be just a killer interception after being up big, and then just catapults the other team to coming back.
That's going to haunt CJ Stroud for the rest of his career.
Yeah, it's going to haunt. He's got someone that I think will take ownership of it and know what he should have did, and he'll admit that. It won't be an Aaron Rodgers where, I thought he was going to run under, or whatever. He'll just take ownership of it. Because I know he's from Ohio State, but I think he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders, and I think he's a good leader. So, yeah.
Right. Agreed.
Could have been a different game, too, also, if Nico Collins would have played. Now we could say, if we had Hutch. I mean, you play the team that's on the field, right? So I'm not going to get into all, like, what ifs, because both teams have what ifs, as far as, like, we could have had Za'Darius Smith in there, but we chose to sit him, like all those type of things. So you play the games on the field. And yeah. And if you're the Houston Texans, you lost to the Jets and then lost a game that you had, in the palm of your hand. So Texans fans, Stephanie, who we interviewed last week, she's probably not feeling that great on this Monday.
I don't think the tailgate was that fun after.
Yeah.
They probably just went home.
No, they drank those sorrows away, man. That's what they did. I've been there plenty of times where I wanted to pop a beer after the game as much as I wanted to pop one during the game. Couple things that I wanted to ask you. The first one is, when we scored our first touchdown in the second half, we chose to go for 2. Were you on board with that, or did you think we should have just kicked the extra point?
No, I'm on board the whole time. I mean, at halftime, we're down by 16 points. That's a 2-possession game. That's 2 touchdowns, 2-point conversions. I think the plan was the whole time, as it should have been. You score, you go for 2. Both times. Then you score and go for 2 again, regardless of whether you got it or not the first time.
Yeah, I think that's the Dan Campbell way. I think it's a 50-50 on me, because if you play it out, the game plays out the same. We don't even need to kick that last field goal to win. The game could play out differently, but some math will say you don't kick that. You don't know how the scoring is going to play out, so you don't really go. It's not late in the game to make it a 2-possession game. There was plenty of time we could have scored again, so you can go either way on it. I was just curious what you thought on that. It did not surprise me at all that Dan Campbell went for 2. I was just wondering what you thought on that. And then,
I'm 100% on board with that.
And I don't know if you've seen the video. Dan Campbell, it was like right after the Jake Bates kick. He's walking towards to where he's going to handshake D'Amico Ryans. Goff whispers, or probably yells something in his ear. Well, I want to know what that was said, because I really want to know. But what do you think that's about? What do you think he said there? Any idea?
I don't. It's classic, coach quarterback speak, but especially after the game that Goff had, I wonder if there was anything extra there, or if it was just, kind of the simple, like, we pulled this out, because of you, or, if he said something like that to Dan Campbell, or, Dan Campbell's already smiling ear to ear just about the kick anyway. He was ready for it. And he kind of like grabs Goff, and, Goff to have probably one of the worst games he's ever had, statistically speaking. Goff probably felt just as good. I'm sure they'll have the sights and sounds on the YouTube and everything. We might be able to hear that. They might keep that private, though. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I think it was more like we gritted this one out, and I won't let that, you can count on that never happening again. It's a 5-interception game. So as usual, we're going to start out with special teams. Obviously star of the game, because we won the game because Mr. Jake Bates, 52-yard game winner. So close to the post. Oh my God, sweating it out. I'm sure you were too. I mean, it looked good the whole way, but like it was so close. You're like, is it going to hit that post? And the shadow of
Both
the
of them.
ball, the shadow, yeah, I know, the shadow of the ball. I mean, it is so you could tell that it's so close because the shadow almost meets the ball, which means it's like right there.
It's gonna hit, right?
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, it was so close to the post. I think it would have scooted in, because it wasn't like a direct down where it bounced out, but it is almost like it had to deal with the rotation of the ball where it hits. Especially the kick that he made, it somehow looked even closer than the 58-yarder he hit, and just the rotation of the ball. It looks like it just turned at the same time, at the right time to make it through that post. And then, of course, he did a 58-yard game-tying field goal. So if you're Lions, you're feeling really good about your kicker in pressure-packed situations.
Definitely. I mean, he's a rookie. So, in essence, something like that, especially from 58 yards, you'd think that you'd be a little more nervous. But after what we've seen so far, I didn't really have many nerves at that 58-yarder, and then really not for the 52-yarder either.
Yeah, it also helped that it was tied, so if he misses that, we still got overtime, so it wasn't like
right.
a Vikings situation. He misses that kick in the Vikings game a few weeks back. Then we're talking it's a little different.
Or if you're the Texans, though, I mean, like, for the Texans, think about how nervous they were, because if they missed, they knew we got the ball back with field position and timeouts and everything, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and the announcers, Chris Collinworth, even said that, if he misses this, it's game over because the Lions were so close. And, as long as those kicks were Jake Bates, we could have been another 10 yards back and he still would have nailed it. I'm really happy for what this means for us moving forward about our confidence level with a kicker and not having to feel like, oh man, we need to get real close, whatever. He's we've done this in the regular season. He's proved it now, tying it up in the Rams game to force overtime late in that game. He, in the Vikings game, he won it. And then these were two kicks, to tie it up. And then also, because the same thing, if he misses that 58-yarder, the Texans are they're at midfield already.
Right.
I mean, it's similar to what the Texans experienced when they missed that kick. Speaking of the Texans missed kick, as soon as he kicked that, the field goal post isn't even in view, and I knew he missed it right from the shoot. I didn't even really have to wait for it to get to the field goal post. I was like, that is going to be so wide left, and that's a really bad miss. So
you could tell live. Well, I could watching it live because obviously you're watching really intent, and it looks the snap, the hold, usually it's so robotic and just, they're so used to everything. Everything goes right according to plan until the kick. And this time you could see right away that the snap was not exactly where it's supposed to be. So then the timing was off for the hold, and that screwed up with the timing of the kick.
Yep.
And you're right. Just as soon as he booted it, you're like, okay, no, that's not close.
Yeah.
I don't think he hit the net.
No, it was wide of the net. I watched it again on replay just to see how wide it was. And yeah, he missed the net all the way. Which, you rarely see in a NFL game.
Really stinks.
You mentioned Jake Bates is a rookie, but also you got to remember the long snapper, he's a rookie too, Hogan Hatton. You have two rookies doing this and obviously gaining experience. I'm feeling really good about that. Jack Fox is a really good holder. He's turned into one. There was an interview with Coach Phipp that when he took over that he didn't feel Jack Fox was a good holder, but now he's developed that part of his game. And his holds seem to be right on. The snaps always seem to be good. And, Jake just kicks it. There's not too much draw or anything like that. It's just straight through. It's, man, great.
I mean, then you got the potential if they keep up playing like they've been playing this, we could be looking at our special teams unit for the next 10 years.
Talk about Jack Fox. Usually we're talking a little more glowingly about Jack Fox, but his first punt was not good. 40-yarder. They returned it for 17 yards. It was a very low kick, very unlike Jack Fox. I think we jinxed him because I think last week or the week before we said, I don't think we've seen him shank one, but that was not his best punt. It was a decent game. They were getting returnable punts and getting some yardage on the punts. But he did knock him down inside the 10-yard line towards the end of the game. So that was good. He came through when we needed him there. But that first punt, not a huge fan of that one.
And it also was just, that was after the first drive was a tipped interception. Then we get we're punting it off, and then it's not a very good punt. And then they start with good field position again.
I know.
It's like, okay, guys, we got to get it together before it gets out of hand.
Yep.
And then it got a little more out of hand before it got better.
It did. The only other special teams note, besides Houston's punter being very good, he flipped the field really well. I was impressed with their punter. But as far as our team, Vaki, that awesome tackle. I mean, he just I love when you're watching special teams when a guy's running full force and then all of a sudden he just stops and then he gets knocked to the ground. You're like, oh my God, that's, you don't see that too many violent hits like that in the NFL anymore. And those are great. I mean, no one got hurt. It was a good, clean play.
He tackled two people, really. I mean, one of them got blocked and then he just smoked the other one.
I know. Vaki is rated 9th now as PFF grades in special team snaps. So
wow.
He is a weapon on special teams, which is good with Jalen Reeves-Maven, our captain, being out. It's nice to have Vaki back there, and it doesn't surprise me. I think eventually Vaki's going to turn into another player that we can use on offense, but for right now, he's making huge contributions on special teams, which is, a reason why Brad Holmes traded to get him.
Right. Which is obviously it's very valuable.
All right. Defense. I don't know where you want to start here. I'm going to let you start, but I got stuff. You got stuff. Let's go.
One of my keys to victory really was slowing down Joe Mixon. Right. So, pressuring CJ Stroud was going to be huge, and then trying to stop that rushing attack, because if we stop the rushing attack, we can win the game. Joe Mixon, 25 rushing attempts, only 46 yards. That's the lowest yardage for a player with 25 plus carries since 2013. So the run defense was very effective on Joe Mixon. What were your thoughts there?
Yep. I mean, he wasn't getting a lot of yards after contact. When he got hit, he mostly went down. In fact, a few times, and Gibbs had this too, where they seem to get slinged backwards and then they start running again and then lose more yards. So it seems like it was almost negative yards after contact. The only play that Mixon really burned us on was that little shovel pass he got for a touchdown, the first touchdown of the game. And Branch just got blown up by Woods on that play. That allowed him to get to the edge. Mixon get to the edge, but
did you see the shot that Mixon took in the end zone though?
Yes. Yeah.
That was Kirby.
Yeah.
I was surprised that he came down and hit him like that. I mean, he's already in the end zone, but that's the way that we play. And, shouts out to Kirby for not shying away from the contact there and just letting him know.
Letting him know that this is going to be all day. And it was all day. He had very little running room. And like you said, that was we could not let them get into any short situation. And they didn't. They were working behind the sticks most of the game. And they did make a couple long third down conversions, but for the most part, that's why in the second half we pitched a shutout, because they kept getting behind the sticks and they couldn't get their offense going through Joe Mixon.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Joe Mixon, I think he broke a tablet or threw his helmet or did something on the sideline. He was very frustrated. The holes weren't there and he, had no room.
I know Stroud went over there to try to calm him down. There's not much you can be able to do. You're not going to be able to run out the middle. Their interior offensive line is not that good, and we got DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil in there. It was going to be hard to run up the middle on that team. Their mode was going to be run outside, but our corners were out there. I know Carlton Davis was holding the edge really well. He didn't get the tackle, but he was one of those ones where he slung him with his jersey and went backwards, and then everybody gang tackled.
Right.
Carlton Davis was all over the place. It's been weird statistically looking at our defense. We've talked about it with those blowouts. It's a matter of them letting them go down the field. We even had that in the Packers game. I know that wasn't a blowout, but we had that game in control. We're basically letting them get all the way down the red zone, then we clamp it down. They don't score. So at the end of the day, when you look at the box score, the yards look all out of whack. Well, this is a game where we needed the defense to lock down in the second half because we were down by 16. we needed them to lock down, and they did exactly what I thought they were capable of. And I'm still not used to, especially even after last year, of us being able to feel comfortable on third down. But I'm getting there, and I'm feeling really good about it. Third down's always stressful, especially with a pass interference penalty or some sort of holding call in the secondary. But we've been better with that lately too.
Yeah, it was only, I think, the first drive or two where it was like, negative play or short yardage play. And then they had like a 3rd and 15, I think, or, 3rd and 10, just things that kept the drive going. Once we clamped that down, they weren't able to move the ball, and then we didn't give up any points in the second half.
Yep.
They had, our red zone defense. I talked about that. Their offense hasn't been very good in the red zone. Our defense has been on top in the red zone. They actually had 4 red zone trips in this play. They ran 15 plays in the red zone, and that only resulted in 2 touchdowns for them.
Yep. Yeah.
That's outstanding defense.
Yes, 50% in the red zone, and that, it's the difference of the game, right? I mean, that's a 4-point swing, right? And would we win by 3 points? So, yeah, we had to do what we had to do in that red zone. And our defense, I feel really confident when we get down there, and they lock it down. I broke down each of the starting field positions for where the Texans started between the first half and the second half. So we'll kind of go through each drive, the result on it, because I want to talk about a couple of the drives when we get in there. But before we get there, I just want to, talk about Carlton Davis, 2 interceptions.
Yep.
It's going to be an iconic thing now. Dan Campbell talking in the background saying we need to get a pick, and then what's happened? Carlton Davis gets a pick, and that was just right where we needed. I know we turned it right back over, but it was kind of like more of a tone setter, and it just put another thought into CJ Stroud, because he likes to throw those like 7-yard outs. And Carlton, he talked about it in the post game, like they've had some success. I know he's going to go right back to it because the Texans keep doing things until they fail at it. And so he knew they were in a cover 2. He knew he had backup. He had told his team, I'm going to jump the next out. Be ready to cover me. And he jumped it. And to his credit, he caught it. Didn't stone hands it. He caught it. And
yeah, right.
No
stone hands tonight.
No. And I know that we gave it right back, but at the same time, we gave it back and then they got it at the 1-yard line. So it was like, okay, well, we put them in a really bad position, and then we end up getting good field position after that. So it wasn't a total loss because, we basically took the ball away from them and then ended up getting it on plus side of the field. After we stopped them 3 and out, at the 3-yard line or whatever.
Real quick on Carlton Davis, that was a bad throw by CJ. It was late, and you're right. Carlton, as soon as he saw the cut, that's, full out sprint over there. The throw was behind him, diving catch. They replayed it like 10 times in a row just to make sure the ball wasn't moving. But he actually was only targeted 6 times in this game, and 2 of those were interceptions. Yeah. And then he allowed 2 catches for 16 yards. Mm-hmm. And he played all but 3 snaps on defense. So that, outstanding game for Carlton Davis. I know Coach Campbell gave him a game ball afterward. Well-deserved.
Yeah. Well, the interception in the end zone was that, he got beat badly on that play. However, that went down, but Stroud threw it up, and to CD's credit, he did not give up on the play. He was fighting there, and he made a nice, you talk about good catch. I mean, that was a full-out dive, and he caught that. So, he held on to it. It'd been nice to even just knock that down. That would have been happy, but we took it from them, and they were in scoring position at that point. And that was their only plus drive that they had the whole second half, really. They had gotten a long catch right before that, and then they tried for the dagger and went the other way. It went towards the good guys.
Did you watch the replay of that pick in the end zone, though?
As far
did you break that down yet, or
no,
did you see the all 22? Or so?
No,
I didn't watch the all 22. I did, check the replay and everything. So Terrion Arnold is the one lining up over Tank Dell. In the coverage, Carlton is supposed to have the back coverage. So, he's running a corner route to the corner of the end zone. Terrion drops down, and Terrion points him off. Like, he's letting Carlton know, here he comes, like, that's you. And I didn't see the full all 22 to see who Carlton was over, But then Carlton realizes just too late.
Yeah.
And that's a typical, if CJ Stroud throws a bullet pass or if he makes a good throw over there, then you're talking about blown coverage. And that's one of those things where Terrion and Carlton Davis are talking to each other while they're celebrating in the end zone. Like, what happened there?
Mhm.
But instead, Carlton sees what happens and, full out sprint, and the ball's just floated up there and makes a heck of a play on it.
Yeah. Stroud could have either put that to the pylon, they would have never been able to catch up to him, or like you said, throw it with some zip on it. And he chose to just float it in there and go safe, and he'll be regretting that
It
one.
was not
that's for
safe.
Sure. No. James Houston, I won't say this is a breakout game, so we needed that. Stroud did not. I only remember him rushing like once or twice. He did not get any first down rushing at all. He really didn't do anything with his legs. So the Lions defensive line did exactly what they needed to do: box him in, do the crunch technique. A couple times where he got out, he got outside the containment or whatever. We were able to bring it home. It was happy to see James Houston. My wife called him the platypus because of the thing that he was wearing over his hair in the back. She's like, looks like a platypus tail. So that's what
Right.
she's like, oh, the platypus got him.
Yeah. His sack was, obviously it was not even he wasn't pass rushing. He dropped
No.
back in the zone, and I don't even know, CJ Stroud starts rolling out that way. We have good coverage, and it looks like he doesn't even have anybody else on that side of the field. And then Houston makes the wise decision once he sees him roll out. I don't know if he's spying or what. Goes after him, takes him down. So, that was obviously a great play for James Houston. Much needed.
Yeah. And then on I don't think Houston got credit. I don't know if he got credit for the sack on this one, but he's the one that play where Stroud got sacked, but he fumbled the ball because of his off. I want to talk to you about his offensive lineman tried to take the ball. I've never seen that before. That was weird. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, I didn't realize until the replay. You're watching the replay and it's like, what was he trying to do? It really, his offensive tackle strips him of the ball, almost as if when you're playing on a playground and you're like, just give me the ball, and you're trying to get a handoff right there, like a pitch off, and then you're going to take it and run. He was not going to run 15 yards for the first down.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
I know. I don't. There was nothing to gain by doing what he did. Yeah, I am so excited for Za'Darius to get on this team and start playing. And I know he didn't play yesterday, but Za'Darius was coaching. He was coaching them up. He's been on this team for like 4 days, and he's out there with the tablet talking to these guys. That's veteran leadership, and that's someone excited to be on this team is what that is. So that was really cool to see. And then it's on Peacock or NBC or whatever. I was watching on Peacock. After the game, did you see where they talked to him at the desk, Za'Darius?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so he walked by with his bag, then he comes in and grabs the mic, and it's like, oh man, this is like Rasheed Wallace 2.0. It's like 20 years later. It's got the same demeanor, just waiting for him to say ball don't lie. And if he says that, then, it's on.
Then he's got the city down, right? They already were chanting and rooting for him and yelling.
They were chanting Z, and they're ready for him. So, and like we said in the last week, he doesn't need to come in and be Hutch, but he coached them up and was, I really feel like he probably made a difference with that line. They were talking about reading the keys. Tony Dungy even said that's a veteran guy, and that's what the Lions needed. They need a veteran guy on that line that could just teach these young guys what to watch for, some little tips along the way. And that's just what he's going to bring to the table.
He's really going to benefit Josh Paschal.
Mm-hmm.
I know he said he was excited to get in here and work with them. They're both Kentucky Wildcats.
Yeah.
And, like you said, just obviously having him in that room, having him talking to these guys and just showing the different things that he's seeing out there and the different ways they can exploit offenses. It was just a great trade for us, and he hasn't even played a snap yet.
When we go where we want to go, it's going to turn out to be one of those great in-season trades that you're going to look back on and be like, man, I'm glad we made that. Of course, don't want to lose Hutch to maybe this springboarded all this, but this seems to be a pretty good match for the culture and everything. So hopefully that keeps continuing. 6 for 15 on third down. So they were not that successful on third downs. I was very happy with our defense. Again, last year felt like it was quite the opposite. We were giving up huge play after huge play on third down. I know we gave up a couple, but for the most part, we were pinning them back and behind the sticks, and then they couldn't convert. And some of that was the Houston Texans got real conservative as far as like running it. Even on 2nd and 20, they were running it instead of trying to get big chunks. I don't know what that was all about. Maybe they felt their lead was safe, but that would be the opposite of what Dan Campbell would have done. He would have been, we need to move this ball and advance this ball and run out clock.
Absolutely. So that something like that doesn't happen.
Exactly. You don't get, that's when they talk about, Lions running up the score or whatever like that. No, you keep playing and the other team needs to stop you. And it's not about necessarily embarrassing the other team, but you don't want to look back on a game and say, well, I guess we should have played harder here, or we should have. No, you don't take your foot off the gas until, there's zero chance the other team can come back. At least that's the way I would play if I'm coaching. In today's NFL, you have to be that way because, man, a few weird things happen. A fumble here, intercept, pick six, or, kick return or special return play, and a team can come roaring back. And when momentum switches, it's hard to get it back.
Right.
And that's what when that momentum switched, it's like the Lions fans in that crowd became more effective. You could just hear it at home. I could hear it at home, the Let's Go Lions chants, everything like that. And, when that momentum switched, it neutralized the home field advantage. And in fact, I think it made Texans offense harder to run. They're probably not used to that much noise from opposing fans, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody is. Yeah. They always talk about how well the Lions travel and how difficult they make it on the home team. So,
yeah, Dan Campbell brought it up yesterday in his press conference, and then earlier today he talked about some other things, and then he said he wanted to thank his fans. So, and I don't think that's just lip service. I really feel like that's real. Like he appreciates what the fans are putting out there, and for us, it's real. I don't know if you've seen the video of them taking over the concourse after the game. They did like the hustle out in the the thing. So, man, yeah, crazy. I hope people are being respectful, and I think for the most part they are, because I haven't seen a lot of negative stuff out there. I mean, we're going to someone else's house. I wouldn't, if someone's coming to Ford Field, I wouldn't want someone throwing it in my face. I just hope people are being respectful. Just as Lions fans put that out there. But yeah, when you win, you get the gloat, right?
Hey, that's how it works.
It is. So
you don't like it, win the game.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked about in the second half, the Lions pitched a shutout. I wanted to go through. The Texans had 13 possessions in all in this game. I'm going to go through the difference between the first half and the second half real quickly, where the field goal, where they started, and what the result of the drive was. And then if anything interesting that I want to point out happens on the drive. And Jacob, just chime in whenever you want to here. First drive, that was after the Goff tipped interception. They started on the Lions' 34-yard line, TD. Second possession, Texans started out on the 43-yard line. That's what we talked about before with the poor punt and the good return. So they're starting at the 43-yard line. Mixon gets them all the way down to the 3-yard line. It looks like they're about to go up by 2 touchdowns. Holding penalty brings them back, and then we force them to a field goal, which was a huge win. When you let teams get down to 3 and you force them into a field goal, I was very happy with that result. The third drive, Texans start out on the 30-yard line, got a field goal. The big play on that drive was the pass interference by Terrion Arnold, which he just needs to turn his head and play the ball, and he's going to be fine.
That was another one like the first couple weeks where it was just like, hey, you know what? This guy's prone to these kind of penalties. It was 2nd and 16 when that happened, so they knew they were deep, and it seemed like that was just the play call. It was just, let's take a deep shot here. Maybe we'll get a penalty. Maybe we'll get a catch, and that's what happened.
Well, as soon as Sub-Zero learns to turn around and pick off a couple of those, they won't do that to him anymore. Right now, he hasn't gotten any pickoffs, so they're just going to keep picking on him with these PIs until he turns around and does gets the pick, or keeps doesn't get a penalty on him. So that was what happened on that drive. They end up getting a field goal on that. The fourth drive, because the Texans scored in the first 4 drives, they started out on the Lions' 37-yard line. When that was that, I don't know, fumble. It's
Fumble,
interception,
pick.
but it was a fumble interception, whatever. Did it hit the ground? They probably would have ruled that a fumble, but it was ruled an interception because it never hit the ground. They end up getting a field goal, which is, again, good on the defense. I mean, the defense kept getting put in terrible spots here. And, to hold them to a field goal when they start on the 37-yard line, that's a win in my book. They're already in field goal position when they get the ball. So we held them for a field goal there.
The first drive, though, when they started at like the same, like on our, 35 or whatever like that, we weren't giving them anything. It was taking, 5 minutes, 6 minutes of game time for these short field drives just for them to get points on the board. And I know we texted back and forth about that too. It's like, if it takes them 6 minutes of game time to move 20 yards or whatever, 30 yards to get a touchdown, I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a struggle for them even at the beginning. It was just the plus field position was giving them a huge advantage over our defense. Fifth drive was Texans started on their 24-yard line. They ended up punting. And the sixth drive was Texans started on the 34-yard line. This was the TD, the one right before half, which, man, that felt like our offense couldn't get going. And then we give them the ball, and then they just march right down the field and score. And I know that they said a dagger on TV. Chris Collinsworth kept saying dagger. Dagger's not till it's I take that as equivalent as nail in the coffin when it's over. That's what dagger means to me. It hurt to score because they were going to get the ball right after halftime, but in no means was it a dagger.
There's no dagger when it's a 2-possession game unless there's less than 2 minutes left in the whole game.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, that was deflating because it was like we had forced a 3 and out. We get the ball back, 2-minute drill. We think maybe we're going to get some points on the board. And then we go 3 and out. We got to give it back to them. And then that was I think that was the worst drive defensively for us. They, yes. CJ had some open people. They drove down pretty quickly. And then, that touchdown there at the end. So no, by no means dagger, but definitely, not good, not what we wanted.
No, you just don't want to see it, especially when you hold them so well throughout that. We had held them to field goals, and then they just kind of bum rushed us right before the half. And then, to make it even worse, is they were going to get the ball right after halftime.
Yeah.
So you're worried about a double score. But converse this with the second half. I'm going to go quickly. Texans start on 30-yard line at the start of the half, throw the pick. Next was Texans get at the 1-yard line because they got the pick. They ended up with a punt. The next one, Texans started on the 30-yard line. Interception. Next one, Texans started on their 22-yard line. Punt. Texans started on their 9-yard line. Punt. Texans started on their 30-yard line. Punt. Texans started on the last drive. They started on the 30-yard line, and that was the missed field goal. So the best field position that they got in the second half was the 30-yard lines, and that was just on touchbacks. It was totally different than the first half, and that helped the defense not behind the 8 ball. And they had that drive when they threw the third drive when they threw the interception in the end zone. That was a pretty decent drive for them, and then they were able to get into field goal range, but obviously it was a long field goal, and it caused their kicker to miss it.
Right. I mean, it just goes to show, had we had them in that kind of field position in the first quarter, probably would have lessened the blow, stopped the bleeding. I mean, it wouldn't have looked like it did at halftime if they did not have those short fields to work with.
Oh yeah. When I was watching the game last night, I was like, this is the biggest difference is Goff is not giving, or the Lions offense is not giving the ball up on, our side of the field. They're making them drive a long ways. And, a few times they were making holding penalties and just we were getting sacks. We we end up sacking them 4 times. We just get them behind the 6, and it seemed for the most part when they got behind the 6, they couldn't work their way out of it in the second half, especially.
Right.
So very good defensive game. I think this is indicative of what this team is about. And every time we do something like this, I'm thinking, man, if we had Hutch on this team, would it be even? I mean, would Texans even had a shot? But this is where we're at, and I'm defense is still playing at a very high level, even without, their best player.
Right? Hey, they're playing for Hutch. They're doing what they can. I just got a couple more things I want to point out about the defense here.
Yes.
I think that Stroud was too comfortable in the first half. We did throw some blitzes at him, but they just weren't getting home quick enough. And, I don't know if it was just a play calling or if that was CJ knowing the blitz was coming and knowing where he was going. Because, the one blitz, I think we sent 7 guys. Like, we sent everybody, and then he still had time to drop back, and then Anzalone just got beat by the tight end. Because if you don't get home right away when you're sending everybody like that, somebody's going to be open. So just some things like that. He was just a little too comfortable, and I think we definitely, AG had a really good game plan. He did really well calling the defense on here, and the second half was just completely opposite story. I want to ask you, though, the end of the game, there was some controversy about they think that Terrion Arnold should have been called for a pass interference on that last play when Anzalone was in front. Did you feel? Let's say you're in New York and you can review pass interference penalties. You're reviewing that penalty. Do you think you call that pass interference? It wasn't called. Let's say it wasn't called on the field. You're reviewing it. The challenge flag's been thrown. You can challenge PI in this scenario, and you're looking up close. Would you call that pass interference?
All right. So I don't know if I can answer because I can't be unbiased in this. Let me tell you, if it's flip-flopped and that happens to a Lions player, I'm saying, yes, that's pass interference. We hit him behind. But I hate when penalties are called when it really wouldn't have affected the play because Anzalone batted that pass down. It wasn't going to be catchable. So I feel like it shouldn't have been talking out both sides of my mouth because if it was Lions, I would say that's pass interference. I'm glad it wasn't called, but by the letter of the law, that should have been pass interference.
Right. Yeah, here's my thing. Like you said, Anzalone's right there. He does bat it. It makes it behind him. He does make a play on it. But the receiver that's running that route, I think, sees Anzalone. He sees the ball. He knows he's not going to make it. And I think at that point, he made a judgment call that he was going to slow down early and kind of dive early. Because he slows down, then Terrion hits him because Terrion's playing the ball. Mm-hmm. And then you have that kind of, the hit, the ball comes down, and then the receiver right away is looking for a flag. It just seemed like one of those things where they knew, I'm not going to get this. I don't know what receiver it was, but it seemed like he knew I'm not going to get this ball. I'm going to make it look as good as I can and slow down and hit, fall to the ground.
I was going to say, Terrion's playing the ball, though, too. He bats it down when it comes down. So, he is making a play on the ball. So it's not like he just, hit the receiver. So, because Terrion has a right for that ball, too. It's just a matter of, where was he making contact without going through the ball? I don't know. It's a tough call. I think ultimately I'd be, if I was a Lions fan that happened to Amon-Ra, I'd say that's pass interference.
Yeah, you already know how I feel about the pass interference things, but it's just not. If you flip those around and Terrion was the offensive player and the other one's the defense, they don't call that pass interference 0% of the time.
I know.
And for some reason, they're both playing the ball. Their both eyes are on the ball. They're both going for the ball. He's not trying to impede the receiver from getting it. He's going for the ball. And Anzalone's in front in this situation anyway. I think it was a good no call, but I just, if you are reviewing that play and you're looking at it based on the rules we have right now, you would have to call that pass interference.
Yep, I agree.
Which is crazy to me, but...
Yeah, it's always tilted towards the offense, so that's how that goes.
I hate it.
We haven't mentioned Brian Branch. He had an awesome game yesterday. I know he didn't get a pick, but he made he defended a lot of passes, made some great hits in the run game. Just another great, outstanding game from, probably top 2 safeties in the league. We have the best tandem back there. There's no secret about that now. The rest of the league's waking up to that.
Absolutely. Somebody else, though, that right away from training camp, Branch has hit another level. He looks great. And the first week against the Rams, that was, I think, one of the first questions you asked me is who stood out to you? And I said, Brian Branch. The way he was defending the balls, he's diving for them. He's putting his body on the line. He's, just being an impact player right away. And I think Pro Football Focus rated him negatively the first week. And then now he's number 1 in the Pro Football Focus, top safety in the league.
Yeah, put that choice that the Lions made to put him back at safety in this scheme and this defense is paying huge dividends. He's got more range to play, but you saw him last night, even when he's locked down in coverage, still batting down balls and just making great plays on the ball. He's was a second round steal.
Absolutely
great player. And the other thing that Next Gen posts some stats on the NFL Pro, and I just wanted to point this out. The Lions have actually generated a 5.1% higher pressure rate with Aiden Hutchinson off the field this season rather than him being on the field. However, that's because our blitz rates about 7 or 8% higher with him on the field. So it's taking a blitz to reach that higher blitz rate, but we are getting pressure. We're just having to do it in a different way. So AG has, I think it's obvious to us that he's blitzing more. Definitely seeing a lot more blitzes. Getting frustrated sometimes that we're not getting home enough, but we're, obviously in the second half we applied enough pressure to make CJ Stroud uncomfortable and, win the game.
Definitely.
All right. Let's move on to the offense. Got to start out with Jared Goff and the 5 interceptions. What?
I got a breakdown here. I want to go over like how you did the other one. So
yeah, go ahead.
All right. Stat wise, if we're just reading the stats here, Jared Goff, 15 of 30, 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. The biggest stat obviously was the 5 interceptions. He did not have his best game against the Texans, and that's outside of even the interceptions. Some of these balls did not come out very good. Even the one throw to Jamo, the ball was just wobbly. Jamo almost dropped it. He had a couple of them that were just kind of iffy. But I'm just going to go down and talk about the interceptions here real quick. So, first interception, very first drive, tipped ball. It's a diving interception. Not too concerned at this point. It's whatever, those plays happen. Second interception, it's a 7-13 game. He had thrown a touchdown to Laporta in the previous drive. So then this one is the strip sack fumble thing where, the ball was caught in the air. It was ruled an interception, so they're not going to review anything. But it makes no difference whether it was a fumble or an interception. But then obviously 4 interceptions sounds better than 5. So just for the sake of this, there's still no concern there. Still same thing. These things happen. Third interception, we went 3 and out the drive before. So the Texans get the ball with a minute left. They drove down. They scored that touchdown. 23-7 game. It's a Hail Mary pass and gets intercepted. If you told me Jared Goff's going to have 3 interceptions at the half, this is not the way that I thought that it was going to go. And I thought that I'd probably be panicking full on. But 3 interceptions, and I'm still not very concerned because each one has a different, circumstance around it, right? Mm-hmm. So, at halftime, he's got 3 picks. Did you feel the same way, or were you...
I'm not happy about it, but especially the last one.
We're not happy about the turnovers, but as far as the circumstances that the interceptions happen, there's a reason behind each one.
Yeah, and it wasn't necessarily that Goff just missed, a defender. I was more concerned about Goff throwing balls into the ground and the wobbly passes than I was.
Yes, right, exactly.
That's what I was more.
And those are the things that are not going to show up that people aren't really going to talk about. Right. Anyway, so that's at the halftime. 3 interceptions at the half. Concern is generally down 0. So then, here we go. Second half, we pick off CJ Stroud the first play of the half. Then David Montgomery has a really strong run to start the drive. Demo gets one more run, and then Goff takes a deep shot to the end zone trying to find Laporta, and there's another interception. This one was the first one where it was like, man, we needed that. It didn't look like it was necessarily too bad of a throw. I don't know if there's just a miscommunication. I have to look at the replay from all angles there. I don't think it was. He had much worse throws throughout the night.
That was a straight shot, but he just overshot Laporta.
Something to do with the angles or whatever. But right. So then that's the first one that's like, okay, you know what? That's a pick. That's, and then also raised the level of concern a little bit because we had just gotten that interception. We had the momentum. That was our chance to get right back into it, and then we blew the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then the 5th interception, it's a 23-13 game, middle of the third quarter. Carlton had just picked off Stroud in the end zone on what should have been that touchdown. we've got new life. We're down, 2 scores. We need a long drive. Even getting a field goal, just getting something would help keep the defense off the field, And then this one is there's a huge first down run by Gibbs. And then on second down, Goff takes a really bad shot down the field to J-Mo, who's pretty well covered. It was a bad ball. The safety's just dropping back. He's got eyes on it the whole way. It was probably a pretty easy interception for the safety. 5th interception of the game. And this was the one, after it happened, we're like, what the heck are we doing here? Like, we are not helping ourselves. We can't do that. The run game, we finally started getting some holes. We started making some things work. And then we took a shot like that. That one was the worst one of the game, in my opinion. It didn't need to happen. It was a bad throw. That was the one where it was like, we've got to get it together right now. We cannot slip up one more time or the game's gone. And luckily we did not after that.
Yeah, that was one of those that you don't see Jared Goff doing too often, just throwing it up like that. That's like a Stafford ball to me. It's just like throwing it up deep like that. He had another one where he went deep that the guy, I don't know if it was a safety or corner that was on J-Mo drop. They dropped an interception earlier. So I mean,
that was early on, wasn't it?
That was like first or second drive. That could have been his 6th interception.
Could have been 6.
Yeah. I still won the game. And I was more concerned about the 4th and the 5th interception. The 4th interception, we were in the red zone. You're thinking you're about to score, or at least get points, at least field goal.
Right.
But on the plus side of that is that he was down at the 1. They didn't get it. They punted. And then we had plus field position because I think we started on our side of the field. We ended up scoring a touchdown on that. So that was our first touchdown in the second half. So
that was just a lucky break that he landed at the 1, though.
Right.
Or at the 2 or whatever.
Was. Yes. Because like a long time ago, like, I don't know, it might have been the 90s, that you could get a safety on that because you landed in bounds. But if you're now.
Oh, right.
You over because technically if they touch him down the end zone, he could have been a safety. They've changed that rule. So it's wherever he was outside the end zone. Luckily, he caught it at the 1. Luckily for Lions, he caught it at the 1. That was a stall drive. Like I said, the interceptions are just what they are. The first 3 are flukes. I mean, they're not really terribly on Goff. The last 2 were definitely on Goff. Even if Laporta didn't run the route, Goff just, threw that ball up there, got intercepted. And then the deep pass to J-Mo, that was just very uncharacteristic of Jared. I don't know if he was getting impatient and just said we need to make something happen, but usually you don't see him forcing that ball down the field like that. And it also just seemed like J-Mo didn't really have a good read on the ball because he was just running and then he didn't really even defend the pass. So I don't know if he even saw the ball at all.
Well, I think he got twisted around because where he's running, he's on the outside, left side on the sideline, and it's lobbed up towards the middle, towards the center.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to turn all the way back around. He's running too fast. His momentum's trying to carry him around. Yeah, it just wasn't.
Yep.
Just ugly.
Yeah, it was. So, like I said, that probably pushes Jared Goff outside the MVP race this year. That probably killed it. Sometimes people have shorter memories, so they might forget that, especially because the Lions won. Had we lost, then definitely been out.
I think he already was a long shot, obviously, anyway, just because we talked about at the beginning of the season. I said Goff had to be almost perfect for them to even really have a shot. And he's been about perfect in most of these games, and he's still, I think his odds were tied with Patrick Mahomes, who has been terrible this year, although the team's been undefeated. So it's like, I don't know what more Goff could have really done. He's not going to run for 100 yards a game, and that seems to be what they're asking for out of their MVP picks, out of the quarterbacks.
Yep. Gibbs had a couple of really nice runs. He almost busted one if he wouldn't been able to make it just around the sideline. I watched that like 3 or 4 times today just to see how close that was. I just love seeing that guy run fast and, make moves. He's awesome. They kind of kept Demo in check, but he had a couple nice runs. But for the most part, they were ready for Demo. It was going to be a Gibbs game. Thought it was interesting that they started out with Gibbs on the first drive. That's usually Demo's drive, and Gibbs was out there right away. So the Lions had already just identified that they were going to go with Gibbs. I thought that was interesting.
Right. I don't like that. We we have a recipe for success that's been working very well.
Mhm.
Why did we change it up there? I don't understand. And, we talked about that already. You said kind of like a change of pace or whatever. I don't like that at all. And then especially, we've given their drives. We give them a couple runs. We try to mix some things up. I feel like any time that we go out to a drive and just commit that we're going to pass first and we're trying to do things like that, it seems to not end well for us.
I don't know. I'm okay with them choosing Gibbs. I think you're going to attack. They had fast linebackers that were going to just attack the zone. And you're hoping that Gibbs can outrun it or, break through there. And it wasn't until the second half that they started running more misdirection and to take advantage of the linebackers rushing the gaps. Gibbs had a really nice run that everybody cut left and he cut right and ran to the outside. And they started to take advantage of that. And then they also did that swing pass to Gibbs too, when we were backed up inside the 10 and ended up getting like 30 yards or whatever on that. Just again, taking advantage of the aggressiveness of the Texans defense, but it felt like it just took them too long to get to that point.
Exactly. I feel like they should have had those adjustments earlier on. We should have been trying the swing or the screen. We could have handed the ball off to J-Mo on an end around or something like that. We weren't trying anything. It just seems like the game plan was to let Goff do. I mean, Goff throws the ball 30 times. That's the second highest total this season. And the only game they had more attempts was Tampa when he threw 55.
Yeah.
That's not what we do. That's not how we win games. Lucky for us, we came out on the right side of this one. We did enough to get it done. It just wasn't. This is our worst offensive game that we've had all season.
The Texans probably the best defense that we've played all season. So it doesn't surprise me that this happened. We stuck with it and we end up making it when it counts. 3 for 4 in the red zone, so that was good. And then we were 7 and 12 on third down. So we did what we needed to do. Extend drives, and we gave up 0 sacks. That was another great stat. Got close a few times. I was going to go through all the pressures that Goff was put under because Michael Boyle had asked us, how did Skipper look? And so I looked into that a little bit with my limited time while I was working today to watch film. So anything else before I get through these pressures that you want to talk about on offense?
No, go ahead.
All right. I know the offense is kind of short end of the stick. The defense was the star of the show today. But Texans caused 12 pressures today. In those 12 pressures, Goff was 3 for 12 for 37 yards, and he threw 2 of the picks with the pressures. I'm just going to go through all 12 of them real quick. The first one, Hunter puts a spin move on Sewell for the first pressure. Sewell did not have that great of a first half when I saw they were end up getting pressure because later on, Autry beat on the fourth pressure. Autry beat Sewell, and that's when that fumble interception happens. So, but before that, the second pressure was Hunter and Autry ran a stunt, and it just Skipper committed to the wrong guy, and Autry just ran around him. They both committed on Hunter. The third pressure was Autry ran over Skipper. There was some internal pressure at the same time, but really the major pressure was Autry over Skipper. Fourth pressure already went through. That was the Autry over Sewell. Fifth pressure, Petrie came on a blitz, and Laporta was late to get over, and that was the one where Goff threw and it hit off Laporta's head. I mean, the way the luck was going yesterday, it would have hit directly off Laporta's head and then got intercepted, like bouncing in the air or something. So dodged one there. Sixth pressure, Hunter gets by Skipper, and it was a 1-on-1. The seventh pressure was their defensive tackles. Settle ran a stunt on Glasgow. Hunter gets around Skipper. No help with Skipper. Skipper ran all these pressures were that I'm going to mention pretty much 1-on-1 outside of one that I'll talk about. Eighth pressure, Hunter gets by Skipper. I think Skipper could have been called for a hold on this, but that was the interception that we threw that landed, at the 1 yard line. The ninth pressure was Tommy. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Tungai gets by Zeitler. Hunter gets by Skipper. So both those guys gave up pressures. 10th pressure was Hunter gets by Skipper. Monty even chipped Hunter, and they still He still got the pressure, but this was one of their big completions. It was a 17-yarder that JMO got hit in the back and still hung onto the ball.
Yeah.
That was a huge catch. That was a huge catch for him to hold on to that. Yep. 11th pressure was Hunter gets by Skipper, and Graham was late. Graham didn't have any commitments on that, but it was late because Hunter was there. They played those wide nines, so they're like way off the line. So it's for the guard to get over there. That's really tough. And on the 12th last pressure, Hunter gets by Skipper. That was on the 3rd and 6th play to Amon-Ra on the very last drive. So that was the last pressure, which that obviously was a huge play. So Skipper let up a lot of pressures, which they were putting Hunter on him. We just got to be thankful that Will Anderson wasn't in this game.
Exactly what I was going to say.
It would have looked much different had Decker been in there. I know there's people that are, bad-mouthing Decker. I don't get it. He's been solid enough, and you could see if we had Skipper in there, this would be the result that he's just outmatched. Skipper he's nice for the 6 offensive linemen, not really starter material. He held his own, just wasn't that impressed with what he brought to the table. It wasn't surprising that he gave up a lot of pressures.
Right. I mean, he was not up against a backup or anything like that, though. I mean, Danielle Hunter is the real deal, and we knew what it was going to look like. You already said, thank God that Will Anderson didn't play, because, I mean, if Sewell was having an off game in the first quarter, that would have been just chaotic. We would have got nothing done.
Yep. Play the team that's on the field, and, we end up coming out on top. Sometimes it's not like who you play, it's when you play them, too.
Real quick, because you mentioned it before, but I just want to know. So the Texans, you think the Texans, without Will Anderson playing, do you think their defense is better than the Vikings, Packers? You think this is the best? The best defense that we've seen?
Against the Lions, yes. Because Brian Flores,
outside total. Obviously, the way the game went with the interceptions and everything like that, it went their way. But I'm just saying,
they managed our run game the best out of any team that I've seen.
True.
As far as like up the gut. They made Goff uncomfortable. That was the most uncomfortable I've seen him. Even in the Tampa Bay game, where he made wonky throws too. I don't know. I think he just, I know he threw 5 picks. I'm going to get beyond that. He just looked uncomfortable. A lot of balls in the dirt. Just, I think you could have a better defense, but it's the matchup. And for whatever reason, the Lions know how to beat the Brian Flores defense. I think some of it's just our offensive line being able to, not get rattled by 6 people up on the line. I think the Texans also, I think, have better linebackers than the Vikings, and that accounted for them to be able to stop our run game.
Yeah, their linebackers were very effective.
Yes, they were really good. So I think that's to me, that's the difference. Now, the Vikings, when we played them, didn't play with their number 1 linebacker. Brian Cashman was out. So it's, maybe it's not. It might be a different story when we play them at the end of the year, if that game means anything to the Lions at that point. But yeah, I would say I was more impressed with this defense than I was any other defense that we've seen this year, in my opinion. What about you?
Well, based on the way the game went, like you already said, they, shut down our run game. They had the 5 interceptions and everything like that. I'm just saying in general, when you talk about their personnel and you talk about the stats and the way that things are done, I mean, obviously they're up there. They're towards the top, but I think the Vikings and Packers have effective defenses too. So, I mean, it's a toss-up.
I just think that they were able to do something that the Vikings and Packers couldn't do, and that's to get Goff out.
Well, in hindsight, yes, like this is the worst. The worst offense has looked, but
yeah, but that's what I'm saying, that they were able to get Goff out of his rhythm, and they were able to effectively stop us running up. I mean, our most effective runs were not between the tackles; they were on the outside, and that's typically not the Lions. Usually we're pretty effective up through the tackles. And I know Decker wasn't playing, so that kind of goes into the equation as well. But they were able to get Goff. Again, I'm not looking at just the 5 interceptions. It's everything. Just looked totally off rhythm.
You know why, though? Goff can't play outdoors.
Yeah. They had that roof open.
The roof was open. They opened the roof on purpose, and that's what That's what caused the issue.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, let's forget about the fact that he's playing in pouring rain in Green Bay, and
Right,
dominated
throwing
that game.
dimes in the rain, and then throwing ducks in the Texas heat.
Yes, that's all right. I'll take it. Before we jump out of here, our grit guarantees. I said JMO was going to lead, and it kind of looked like that early on, especially when we were throwing deep. But he ended up getting third place with 53 yards behind Laporta and Amon-Ra. And Jacob, they didn't do a special play with the offensive line, so you did not get yours. So
they didn't.
They kind of played it straight up. The only kind of weird play was that shovel pass to Amon-Ra at the
early on, yeah.
But otherwise, we played it pretty straight.
Yeah, I mean, damage control. They really, couldn't open up the playbook too much in this one. No. That's okay though. But you're right about JMO. It felt like he was going to score. It felt like he was going to have a good game. They were definitely targeting him. The Texans were definitely putting emphasis on stopping Amon-Ra and trying to play low on him. So it's okay. No guarantee for us this week.
Nope. We'll see how we do next week. But anything else that you want to talk about before we head out here?
I'm good. Moving on. Find a way to win, right?
Another Victory Monday. Yep. Engage with us on Twitter, on Reddit, however you want to do that. Through Spotify. Appreciate all the comments. We got our YouTube channel up and going. Jacob just threw our first short on there. It's where everyone's heart rate got to a 120 when we just barely made that kick.
Quick little.
Yeah. So check it out. Comment on there. You can reach us out on there too. We appreciate all of it. So get the Jags this week. So, yep, feeling pretty good going into that game. I feel like 9-1 is definitely within our reach. So, for Jason and Jacob, it's been Talking Grit, and it's been fun. Go Lions!